and thank you everyone, for your time, for being here, to listen to our presentation. It's not that easy with everything that's going on. Yeah, so my name is Kakoko Moke, and I'm from Congo. I did my BA in politics and international relations, and I'm currently doing my my master's in politics and international relations, as Eva said. Yeah, so we'll try to learn a bit more about politics and in terms of like African development. What can we do like to achieve our development? So we'll actually be looking at party system variation in sub-Saharan African countries. What explain the different trajectories that we are experiencing right now. So yeah, so I'll just quickly go through content page, things that we'll try to cover today. Yeah, so we'll try to look at party system as a concept. We'll also look at measure of party system institutionalization. We'll look at factors. Yeah, we look at factors that explain party system institutionalization, and I'll conclude by giving some remark, and then and if you have any question, you'll ask at the end. So yeah, so in terms of party system institutionalization, so people might ask themselves, what does it mean? What does party system institutionalization means? And to make it easier for everyone, I'll try to refer to the UK because that's the country we are living, so we understand the system better. So I'll try to link it to the UK so everyone can get that, so everyone can understand it better. So in terms of party system institutionalization, so scholars have conceptualized it as a unidimensional or multidimensional. So but there is a consensus amongst scholars. They define it as the process by which the patterns of interactions among political parties become routine, predictable, and stable over time. So yeah, that might sound like confusing. So basically what it means, it just means how political parties interact within a system. Are political parties able to maintain the same vote share across different elections? So if political parties are able to do that, then there is stability. But if like a political parties win 50% of vote at these elections, and at the next election they win 10% of vote, that means there is instability. The party system is not institutionalized because those political parties are not able to maintain those stable vote share, across different election. So so why should we bother about party system? Why does it matter? Why should anyone care about party system? So basically, party system means democracy. You can't have a democracy without having political parties. Can you imagine? You can't really have like a democracy without political parties. So you need some form of political parties for you to say that you have like a democracy. So that's why we should bother too much about it, and that's why it means so much. Like if you have a stable party systems, you also have higher level of democracy, and that means you have a better life for your people. And in the UK, something that we might be taking for granted, like people having fair elections. We are able to elect our leaders. We don't have a lot of problems. Like in Tanzania, they had an election yesterday, but the internet was switched off. So there is no like that kind of like fairness or that kind of thing. So but here we tend to take those things for granted here. So like I'll actually give some contemporary example. Like things that are happening right now, like in Africa, for instance, like in Mali, you had like military leaders entering political arena, arresting president, telling president like you're no longer a president. Can you imagine like that happening to this country? Like a military leader coming in, telling Boris Johnson, you're no longer prime minister. We will put Jeremy Corbyn, let's say, we'll put Jeremy Corbyn as a leader. Can you imagine the level of instabilities that will bring? That will bring a lot of instabilities. But those kind of things are happening back in Africa. Why those kind of things happening is because, you know, we have our political parties are not stable. You know, we don't have stable party system. We have lower level of party system institutionalization. You know, and that's why political party system and political parties are really important, because they promote stable democracy and they represent citizens' interests. If a political party doesn't deliver on their promise, I can punish them by not voting for them next, you know, at the next elections. You know, I can hold them accountable for what they are doing. So it's really vital. We cannot overlook like party systems, you know, in terms of party system institutionalization. Like they affect every aspect of our life, and we should care so much about it. We should all try to have institutionalized party system, because if we do, then that's really much better. And in terms of Africa, we should study party system in Africa, because a lot of people have not really focused too much studying party system in Africa. They tend to focus on like East Asia countries, Latin America, or in Europe, but they haven't really focused too much in Africa. So I thought it would be really important, like, you know, to also try to study party system in Africa and how it affects other people as well. So in terms of the country that I will try to cover, I will look at countries like uh, uh, Botswana, South Africa, Malawi, and Zambia. I'll try to explain why these four countries have different level of party system institutionalization. So I'll try to explain why these four countries. Obviously, I can't look at all, you know, African countries, because you know, I don't have much time. So I just focus on the four countries here. So in terms of like colonial heritage, uh, all these countries were colonized by the British. They were colonized by the British, and they gained their independence in the like Botswana, they gained their independence in the 1960s, and South Africa, Malawi, and Zambia, they gained their independence in the 90s. So in terms of the wave of democracy, Botswana became a democratic country in the during the second wave for democracy, and South Africa, Malawi, and Zambia, they became, you know, democratic during the third wave for democracy, because they became a democratic country during they held their first multi-party election during the 90s. And yeah, so in terms of like the research design, so what kind of research did I do to explain why Botswana, South Africa, Malawi, and Zambia? What did I do to explain how they had, what did I do to explain their level of party system institutionalization? So basically, I use more similar system. So like more similar system is a framework that we can use. We can look at countries that share a lot of things in common, but they differ in few aspects. So we can use those differences to explain political outcome. So in terms of Botswana, South Africa, Zambia, and Malawi, all countries have some provision of party founding. So political parties are given money to run for the elections, and that's really good for PSI. And there is like some religious cleavages. You know, you've got like Christianity and Islam as, you know, the dominant, you know, religion within those countries, and that's also good for PSI, because, you know, people tend to vote on that basis. And we also have ideological polarization, political culture, colonial heritage, geographic location. They're all in global south. So yeah, so all these factors are similar to all these four countries, but they differ in terms of like their institutional design. So for instance, Botswana and South Africa, they have a parliamentary system. So their regime type is different. Malawi and Zambia, they have a presidential system. And in terms of like the party systems, Malawi and Zambia, they've got like multi-party system. A lot of political parties have won power in their party systems. And you have Botswana and South Africa, only one political parties have won, you know, have won elections throughout their history. So they have like a dominant, you know, party systems. And they also look at, you know, economic performance and how can also explain the differing level of party system institutionalization, and you also look at corruption. So in terms of like party system institutionalization, scholars use different measure they use different indicator to measure party system institutionalization. Because I don't have much time, I'll just focus on two measure. So, but for my dissertation, I also look at party system closure as well. But here I'll just focus on electoral volatility and effective number of parties. So, like, I don't want to complicate things. I just want to make it simple. I will not even read this definition. So basically, electoral volatility, what it does, it measures, the vote share that political party win at one election to another. So if a political parties are able to win, similar amount of votes at different elections, that means there is stability. So if, like, for instance, a Labour Party win 50% of vote at these elections, and at the next election, if you win like 52, so there is some stability. So the level of electoral volatility will be lower because they've managed to maintain the same vote share across different elections. So that means there is some stability. But if a Labour Party win 50% of vote at this election, and at the next election, it win like 7% of vote, so the discrepancy is huge. So there is a lot of instability there. So it means like the party system is less institutionalized. But if political parties are able to maintain the same vote share across different elections, that means they will have lower level of electoral volatility, and it automatically means their party system is institutionalized. And in terms of effective number of party, it basically look at effective number of party. It looked at the number of political parties that are able to shape electoral outcome. So how many parties within a systems are able to win political parties? Like in the UK, only 2 political parties have a realistic chance of winning power: the Labour government and the Conservative. Those are like the dominant. So and when you have that kind of system, it's more stable because there is like no independent candidate can just come in and win power. Not anyone can just come and win power, because those political parties are well established, are well rooted within society, and that's so good in terms of party system institutionalization. So now, in terms of looking at the level of electoral volatility in South Africa, Botswana, Malawi, and Zambia. So if you look at this, this graph here, you will see that the level of electoral volatility in South Africa and Botswana is significantly lower when you compare to Malawi and Zambia. So this means that in South Africa and Malawi, South Africa and Botswana, political parties were able to maintain, the same vote share across different elections. Like, for instance, like in Malawi and in Botswana and South Africa. In South Africa, this party, African National Congress, they've repeatedly won more the 50% of vote at each elections. The same can be said in Botswana as well. Botswana Democratic Party also managed to win a lot of vote, during these years that I focus on. So, but in Botswana, this was in Malawi and Zambia, this was not the case. You had, like, in Zambia and Malawi, you had independent candidate, entering politics, winning a lot of votes, shaping electoral volatility. They didn't run at the last election, but at the next election, they join politics, they win a lot of power. So, and that's shape, like, it just causes a lot of instabilities because those political parties are not able to maintain those stable vote share across different elections. So yeah, so we can see, like, in terms of electoral volatility, the fact that Botswana and South Africa have lower level of electoral volatility, it means that they have higher level of party system institutionalization, because political parties were able to maintain the same vote share across different elections, and that cannot be said in the case of Malawi and Zambia. And in terms of electoral fragmentation as well, so if you can look at this chart here, you see South Africa, Botswana, all have a lower level of electoral fragmentation, meaning that only few political parties have a realistic chance of winning power. But that cannot be said in the case of Malawi and Zambia. You had like 4 free political parties have a chance of coming in and win political power. It just causes a lot of instabilities. Political parties are not well rooted within society. So now, so we'll try to explain. So why now these 2 countries, why Malawi, why South Africa and Botswana have higher level of party institutionalization through the level of electoral volatility and party system and electoral fragmentation. So we'll try to explain, why they have these discrepancies in terms of their political outcome. So we can look at the institutional design. So we look at the regime type. So we look here on the PowerPoint. South Africa and Botswana, they've got like a parliamentary system. Malawi and Zambia, they've got a presidential system. In terms of like a type of party system, we've got South Africa, they've got a dominant party system. Botswana have a dominant party system. Malawi also have a multi-party systems. And if you look at the economic performance, you can see like huge differences here. You can see like the GDP per capita for South Africa was nearly 6,000, and Botswana was 7,000. But Malawi had like 300. That's significantly lower, like in terms of like economic performance. Even in terms of corruption, South Africa and Botswana also had lower level of corruption when I was measuring, when I was looking at corruption index. Yes, so there is a lot of argument in regard, to regime type and how they affect, the level of party systems. So a lot of scholars argue that when you have a parliamentary system is very, very good for party system institutionalization. Why they argue that? They argue that when you have a parliamentary system, politics is centered around political parties. And that's really good because political people, citizens are more likely to vote on the basis of political parties. And that's really good because it just, strengthen, partisanship, party identification. That's what you can see in these countries. Like people say, I am a Labour supporter, I am a Conservative supporter, because the politics here is centered around, political parties. But that cannot be said in presidential system. In the presidential system is mainly, with individuals like Donald Trump. You have Biden. You have, like these individuals. So they can just, come in and, and win so much, so much power because, politics is not really centered around political parties. And that was the case in Botswana and South Africa. You have this African National Congress. These political parties, they play a big part in the struggle for independence, with colonialism. So like people have strong attachment, to these political parties. So they're able to vote for these political parties over time. And when they vote for these political parties over time, it's really good for their party system institutionalization because it means, political parties are able to maintain the same vote, the same vote share across different elections. But that cannot be said in presidentialism. I can go to any presidentialism and persuade people, I will do this, I'll do this, I'll do this, I'll do this, and you can easily win power because there is a lot of politics is centered on personality rather than party politics. So yeah, the fact that Botswana and South Africa have parliamentary system in comparison to Malawi and Zambia, which have presidential system, that could also be another factor that explains why they experience different level of party system institutionalization. So in terms of dominant type of party systems, So you have a scholar argue that when you have a one dominant party system, when you have a political system where only one political parties tend to win power, that's really good for party system institutionalization. You know, that's really good for party system institutionalization because it just means that, you know, those parties are able to maintain those, you know, stable vote share across different elections. But you've got other scholars who have argued that when you have only one political party is winning power, it's not really good for democracy. It tends to lead, you know, like to authoritarian, you know, authoritarian regime, like, because no one is being held, you know, accountable. That's why some scholars argue that it's good to have a systems where, you know, different political parties can win power, yeah, where you have multi-party system. But again, in this regard, you know, some scholars argue that it's good to have one dominant party which win power all the time because it just facilitates that stability. As the case here in the UK, we can say we have stability here because only two political parties win power, like the Labour and the Conservative. You will never see a UKIP winning power, or other political party. They don't have like a realistic chance of doing that, and that's really good in terms of PSI because, yeah, because there is no like change in the vote share of the elections. Yeah, so in terms of like economic factors, as you can see on this PowerPoint, you know, these children are really happy. You know, they are smiling because the economy is doing great. You know, you've got you know, scholars who argue that, you know, when the economy is doing really well, you know, people are more likely to vote for the same political parties. And that's why you see here when the conservative, you know, when the conservative, they run election, they always, you know, pinpoint, look, you know, if you vote for Labour, you know, they will damage the economy, they destroy the economy, blah blah blah, because they know that if you've got the economic argument on your side, you've got a realistic chance of winning power. So scholars argue that when the economy of the country is performing really well, voters are more likely to be happy with like the systems, and they're more likely to compensate, you know, the incumbent. So that means, you know, the fact that, you know, the economy was doing really good in South Africa and Botswana, you know, it meant that, you know, people were more likely to vote for the same political parties over time, leading to lower level of electoral volatility and lower level of electoral fragmentation, meaning higher level of party system institutionalization. But in Malawi and Zambia, the economy was really poor throughout those years that I investigated. So it meant that, you know, people were not happy with the way political parties were running things, and they penalize those political parties by voting for different parties. So yeah, in terms of like economic factor could also another explanatory factors that we can use to explain why the party system institutionalization is higher in Botswana and South Africa, because the economy was good, people were more likely to stick with those dominant party. But in Malawi and Zambia, the economy was really poor, and people were not able to vote for the same party over time. So, and in terms of corruption, so the level of corruption, so yeah, we all know about corruption. You know, corruption, as Magufuli said, like is the cancer of society. So, like when you have corruption, it just affects, you know, the legitimacy of political parties and elections, and people are less likely to vote for the same political party. So in South Africa and Botswana, the level of corruption was significantly lower in compare when you compare to to Malawi and Zambia. So yeah, corruption could also be another influential factor in explaining why these four countries have differing level of party system institutionalization. Yeah, so just to conclude, so basically what I've just said, I'll kind of like explaining why, you know, very like these four countries, Botswana, South Africa, Malawi, and Zambia have different level of party system institutionalization. I explained that the reason why Botswana and South Africa have higher level of party system institutionalization is because they have a parliamentary system. And I say that when you have a parliamentary system is really good for democracy, for development, because politics is centered around political parties. So people are more likely to associate with political parties, and they're able to vote for those parties over time. And that's really good for party system, because what it does, it just promotes, stable inter-party competition. People, those political parties are able to maintain those the same vote share over time. But when you have a presidential system, you have a lot of split and merges. You have political party splitting. You have people who are talented. They can just come in and win power, and it just change everything because of like the way the presidential system is. And I also look at dominant party system. I explained that the reason why South Africa and Botswana have a level party system institutionalization. I said because they have one dominant party system. So the African National Congress in South Africa, they've won all the elections throughout their history. So that means they had a very close access, and like it's not easy for any new political parties to come in and win power. But in Malawi and Zambia, you had new political parties coming in, winning a lot of power and shape, the level of electoral volatility, meaning that they had lower level of party system institutionalization. I also look at the level of corruption and level of corruption and economic factors. The fact that the economy in South Africa and Botswana was good, it meant that people were more likely to vote for them over time. So now, to conclude now, so what's next, for PSI in Africa? Like the study of party system in Africa is really, really important. It is really important because when we have stable party system, we are able to achieve, development. We are able to achieve peace and stuff. But when we have unstable party system, where you have like, military leader, when you have like less institutionalized party systems, you don't have fair elections, you don't have, adequate, electoral system, and when things goes wrong, you have this military, coming in and changing everything, which just affects everything. It's not really good, for everyone. So we should be aiming to have stable party system. We should make sure that we elect our leader accordingly. So, and in terms of like and in terms of like recommendation, so in terms of me personally, I would recommend a lot of countries to have like a parliamentary system, because it's just so good for politics. It just avoid all these instabilities, all these conflicts that happen in the presidential system. And the countries should focus to have like strong economy, because that's really good. Economic growth is really good because it enable voters to stick with same political parties. I think that's it from me. Thank you so much for listening to my presentation. I appreciate it. Thank you.